education system is a joke. Our roads are a joke. Our public transportation is a joke when you look at compared to other countries. The list goes on and on and on. And if you look at the debt, just the debt clock alone, $19 trillion and counting. If you look at all the wars we've been involved with, the massive imperialistic agenda that we've been promoting. That's why.
Well, how would you do it different then if you're saying that, they don't put the budget correctly and all that? What would you put less money into?
What would I put less money into? Okay, so I am a person who's been forced to live off of a very frugal budget. Now, yes, I do live at home. And my parents do help me out in the sense that I pay for certain things in the house, but it's far less than what I would pay out in the quote-unquote the real world. I have lived with roommates. I have lived out in the real world, so I know how to budget my money. Now, I was in debt at one point, but I paid off all of my personal debt. How did I do that? I chose to take things out of the budget that I felt weren't necessary to pay for those things that were, like my debt. Now, I'm a college student. I'll be graduating here in a month, and I'll have to start paying on my college debt. That means I'm going to have to sacrifice certain things that I want to do, like going out to eat, partying with my friends, to pay off on this student debt. That's how you do it. You don't spend money that you don't have.
Right.
We're in a deficit now, and we need to find some way to deal with that. We need to hire all kinds of economists from all different kinds of colleges. I don't care where they come from.
It costs more money. I know it would help, but I think they need to work together with the team they already have and try not to spend as much money. I mean, just pull together what they can.
But like I said, we're kind of going off base. But this is why a lot of times this is the argument. Like what you were saying about transgenders being able to use bathrooms. That was the original question. So, how does that also affect our governmental system and how we regulate things? Well, we can either use the decentralization of power and give the individual states the rights to vote and let the people of that state decide what is right for them. But then when they decide that, you have all this massive backlash against people. You have businesses saying, we're not going to do business in this state, and it hurts the state economy because they don't like the business that they promote. Ironically enough, these same businesses will sell a lot of times their products in countries that are far more oppressive to females or people of homosexuality or that identify as homosexuals or transgender. Like, let's just say, let's use Apple, the company Apple, from when I don't think it was North Carolina, it might have been Tennessee, or it was one of the states that had these gender laws that were instigated. Tennessee was quick to come out and say, or not Tennessee, but Apple was quick to come out and say, we're no longer selling our iPhone 6 or whatever model it was. We're no longer doing business with this state because we are fervently opposed to the decision this state is taking. Ironically enough, those people will sell phones to the Saudi Arabians to fund terrorism and the suppression of women's rights. And they participate in female mutilation, clitoral mutilation. They actually cut off the clitoris of females as a rite of passage in their culture. Now, is that a cultural practice? Yeah, well, yes, and no, yes, it is. Is it female mutilation? Yes, it is. Technically, circumcision is male mutilation, and that is a cultural practice that honestly serves very little health benefits. There is some moderate hygiene benefits towards a male being circumcised, but not very many. But a female, it's been shown to be health-wise, it's been very detrimental to their health. So you have companies that won't deal in places like North Carolina or Tennessee, but they'll be happy to sell to people in Egypt or Saudi Arabia or Iran that actively stones women that live in archaic times, that will still stone people for having a homosexual partner or ostracize them. If they're not outrightly murdered and mutilated, they are ostracized. And I think that is wrong. I think that is a hypocrisy that we need to say. So while private businesses do have a right to do these things and make these decisions, and people have a right to voice their opinions on their discomfort or their dissatisfaction, I think everybody needs to be held accountable. And businesses that do shit like that, I think that they are a part of the problem too. if you want to punish the people of North Carolina for voting this law into regulation, why don't you not sell phones to people like in Malaysia that actively support women's rights or something like that? I just think that's insanely hypocritical, and nobody seems to want to talk about those issues. That really upsets me. Everybody's like, oh, good, let's pat Apple on the back. They took a stand for gay rights, in America, while they actively sell their product to people that will suppress the very people they're claiming to support. I just think that's ironic. The same thing happens with our military. We say we don't support terrorism, and what do? We sell munitions to people in these regions of the Middle East to destabilize the region, to prop up puppet dictators to support our political agenda, and then it comes back to bite us in the ass. We wonder why. And this is, again, all these things are interconnected. All these things are connected. So I really appreciate your comments and your what you said. It was a great discussion, but I'm gonna leave it at that. So thank you so much for coming in, Random. I really appreciate that. We're gonna have you. Yeah. We're gonna move you down on in there into the lobby, and you can choose to stay, or unless you had any other questions.
Yeah, I had another question. Have you heard of Luxury Comedy by Noah Fieldings?
I have not.
Oh, okay. Well, then never mind. But yeah, thanks. All
right, take it easy, man.
All right. Yeah, shout out to Super Serious Records. You guys should check them out. They're a good rap label.
Right on. Thanks a lot, man.
They're pro women. All right. Bye.
Sounds good. All right, guys. So our radio portion of our podcast is going well. We haven't even gotten into the real meat of my critical analysis of the sexism in the media. So this has been really fun so far. So Clash Kid, hello, thank you for coming in. I do have Skype. I don't use it anymore because it is a terrible, god awful, spam infested program that eats up all of my bandwidth and bombards me with ads and is wildly inefficient and stupid. So I hate Skype and I don't use it anymore. So I do have Skype, but I don't use it anymore. I'm sorry. Hey, mad respect for coming in and calling in, man. I appreciate that, for you getting your voice heard, and thank you for Tron, and thank you for who was the other caller? I can't remember the other caller's name, but the other caller who was in here. It was Random and Tron. Both of you guys. Thank you so much for participating in that discussion. Thank you for having the balls to call in and the willingness to call in to have your voices heard or asking a question. I really appreciate that, you guys. That was awesome. I'm not playing a game right now. We're doing a podcast. This isn't a game, man. This is real life. There's no real benefits to circumcisions, and things can go wrong. Leaving the male with a fucked up balloon animal instead. Yeah, there's a lot of information that point towards the desensitization of the penis. The same thing with women. Actually, I can kind of go through and share factual, conclusive evidence provided by authority figures on the matter, if you guys want to hear about what that mutilation does to an individual. Now let me see if I can find it. Here we go. Let me see. Okay, so I'm on the right chapter. All right, so let me just read you off some numbers here. Now we talked about female mutilation. Let's talk. This is actually a really good topic that will kind of tie into the oppression of sexism in the media. We have people alleging that negative portrayals of female characters in popular media, such as video games, movies, and television and novels, that those portrayals of women perpetuate these gender role stereotypes that are damaging and harmful to women, and they promote the male patriarchy, perpetuating a endless cycle of misogyny against women. Okay, so this is a popular opinion you'll find a lot on social media and media in general. Now let me talk to you about some real. I'm not saying that that's not real, but this is like real oppression of women. Now let's talk about what the effect that the circumcision of a woman has. So a study found that 250 female patients from the maternal childhood centers of Ismailia, Egypt, found that those who were circumcised were 80% more likely to complain of painful menstruation, 49% more likely to complain of vaginal dryness during intercourse, 45% more likely to experience a lack of desire, 49% less likely to be pleased by sex, and 61% more likely to be had difficulty reaching orgasm. Let's not discount the fact that this is done in a little bit later age to a lot of toddlers. It is it is insanely painful for these children to go through. They're only given a local anesthetic as the clitoris is removed and cut off. Not just and said pos, you know what? That is very true. That is a stereotype that is very true, and that is a perpetuated stereotype affecting men. It is in many cases. I have heard cases of women or men saying it is more appealing to have a circumcised penis because it looks more appealing than an uncircumcised one. Now, female genital. Getting back to this. Just from those statistics, this changes the way that women are able to sexually relate towards men in these countries. They're not able to enjoy, based on this study, it seems to say, from what I take away from this, they're not able to enjoy. They're less likely to enjoy the sexual experience, or it has a reduced effect. And not everybody is for this. This could be seen as an example of sexism that is perpetuated in these countries that is horrible and awful and very damaging towards women. And said Pos, you brought up a very real instance of how that stereotype also affects men. I don't know about the studies showing about, because I'm not learned on it and I have not studied it, of the sexual experience of uncircumcised men to circumcised men and how that translates, and whether, and I'm not going to argue which one is worse. I'll just say that this stereotype is perpetuated to both genders, where their genitals are being mutilated, and nobody really, not a lot of, this isn't a topic that's often talked about, and it's often overshadowed by Anita Sarkeesian. I'm not blaming her. I'm not saying it's Anita Sarkeesian's fault, but the fact, if Anita Sarkeesian says, like, women in video games walk with an exaggerated hip sway and that's sexist, that is more likely to get attention than genital mutilation and all of our collective countries combined. And why is that? That's because our popular culture has such an insane influence on our lives. We are avid consumers of popular culture. We participate. The video game industry alone is a $2 billion industry. For the people that say that these subjects don't matter, or that ethics in gaming journalism don't matter, clearly do not understand the dynamics, the business dynamics of that's just video games. That's not the comic book industry. That's not like the fantasy novel industry. That's not the Hollywood cinematic industry. There's so many industries that are affected by this. These are entire industries which jobs are based off of, that hire people that, according to people like Anita Sarkeesian, say they perpetuate stereotypes in the media, and they have damaging effects on both males and females. Like, you know, as we talked about the different ways that sexism affects men, and yes, we should give it fair and balanced. Just give them the same warning. Everybody gets the same warning, and if they don't behave in such a manner, they're booted off the show. That's a warning. I'll just give everybody a quick shout out because there are some questions being raised here in chat. Anybody that wants to call in the show is more than welcome to call in the show and voice your opinion or ask a question, ask for an opinion. I would love to hear it. If at any time I feel like you're doing this intentionally to be contentious or to be an asshole or a jackass, you're just going to get booted off the show, and that's it. I don't really care. So, or I do care, and thanks for wasting my time. It sucks, but please don't do that. And if you want to call in and have a real discussion, let's do it. I would prefer to keep it civil. The two examples of the radio call-in that we've just had were excellent examples of people responding and asking legitimate questions and wanting to get their voice heard and being concerned about